forsaken booth. The truth is you sadly mistaken proof. I'm better than layman shoot. I'm Super Saiyan.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. So let's discuss MLW Azteca number 3. And this episode was fun, not necessarily because of the matches, but because of the angles. Again, that's really the strong suit of MLW. Even though they're doing a really good job of just stealing stuff from other promotions, they are doing enough of it to make it fresh, and doing something different. They're taking the characters that were created somewhere else and taking them a different direction. It's like when you have a comic book company and, they get G.I. Joe or something. They get the G.I. Joe license or something like that. And they decide to do something completely different with G.I. Joe as opposed to what other people have done with G.I. Joe. It's that simple. It's like, when you read Ninja Turtles and it was made by Archie, or you read Ninja Turtles as it was written by Mirage, or you read Ninja Turtles as it was written by IDW. It's all going to be different even though it's the same property. And here, his uses of Cesar Duran and some of the other characters are very interesting stuff. So let's get right into that. So Emilio Sparks is watching as Hammerstone and Holiday are confronting Cesar Duran on the street. I think it's outside the venue. And Cesar Duran holds his guards back as Hammerstone just kind of grabs him by the collar. And this is how a wrestler and a non-wrestler should look. Hammerstone looks massive. It looks like the Thing from the Fantastic Four grabbed fucking Tom Green by the shirt. It was like, hey, look at me. It was and how Cesar Duran had to look up at Hammerstone. And Hammerstone had to look down at him. It just looked like he was ready to rip him to shreds, and it was great. And then Cesar Duran was like, look, go ahead, hit me. Go ahead, hit me. And Holiday was like, oh, nope, don't hit him, It's a trap, So then Cesar Duran lays out the rule, the stipulation, the rules of the game. If Hammerstone ever puts his hands on him again, ever decides to hit him, he will be stripped of the world title. And Holiday was like, oh yeah, see, I knew it was a trap. Hammerstone was like, maybe I don't care about the title. Maybe I just want to hit you. And then he was like, oh, well, since that's the case, you can defend the title next week. And you, Richard Holiday, are going to have to fight Pagano in a barrio brawl tonight. Nobody knew what a barrio brawl was. Richard Holiday chief among them. So later, in a later segment, Richard Holiday is pacing back and forth saying, what on earth is a barrio brawl? And he is so upset. And he's talking, he's trying to figure out what it is. And Alicia is too, just trying to tell him to calm down. It's probably just we don't know what kind of match it is. We don't know. And Hammerstone, I love that we got to see two different sides of that character in the same episode, because here he's doing silly stuff. So he's telling like Richard Holiday, like, look, I don't know what kind of match a barrio brawl is, but he could have like a chair. He could have like barbed wire, like a baseball bat. He might pull out a gun. It might be a knife, it might be a chainsaw. And Richard Holiday was just shaking as the violence level got higher. He's like, ah! And he was like, I'm out of here. I need a weapon. And then so he's so he asks Alicia for a weapon, and she was like, I don't have any pockets, I don't have any sleeves. So he tells Hammerstone to give me your belt. He's like, what? He's like, give me your belt. I need a weapon. Give me your belt. And he was like, no, I'm not giving you my belt. It was hilarious. I love the chemistry between these three. They really found something, especially with Hammerstone and Holiday, where no matter how serious Hammerstone is and everything else, and he's serious at the right times, and he's silly at the right times. Like, he's silly when he's not in danger. Now, Richard Holiday is in danger, so he can fuck with him. He can mess with him about how scared he is and stuff like that, because that's his friend. So it makes sense. And since they have years of relationship between the two characters, especially if you've been watching, you get it. You get that this is the relationship that the two characters have. And Richard Holiday is, he's showing different kinds of character too. Like last week, he was James Bond. He was sneaking around in the dark wearing a costume and broke in and saved Hammerstone. Now this week, he's scared of a fight. He don't want to be in a fight. And then, even though he was told who his opponent was, when the match actually happens, the barrio brawl, he was there on site and then kept saying, who is my opponent? Where are they? So I'm guessing they must have shot the Barrio Brawl before they shot the other stuff. In any event, this was a cinematic match. It was Richard Holiday versus Pagano. And Pagano basically was the cinematic match was them fighting around an empty gym, you know, and they basically it was basically an empty arena match. There was a bunch of chairs in there and stuff like that, but it was mostly just guys them punching each other and kneeing each other and knocking each other down and stuff like that. They brawled around the venue before the referee disappeared, and when the referee redisappeared, it was a guy in a Cueto mask, you know, one of his goons. The goon grabbed Richard Holiday as he finally had caught up with Pagano, and finally was beating him up. Pagano had been beating his ass the whole match at this point. Then, as they took some free shots from Pagano, he knocked Holiday down and pinned him. It was a fast count due to the crooked referee, and Pagano wins. And I loved everything about this. This whole thing was very interesting, very good stuff. Pagano is cool. You know, he's not one of the many masked guys, you know, not masked, but clown guys running around in Mexico. He actually stands out as opposed to all the other clowns that hang around down there. I just wish that there wasn't so many of them. But having Pagano as one of Cueto's henchmen is pretty fun. I like that. So the other matches on the card, 5150 defeated Aerostar and Drago. The match was pretty fun too. Alex Kane cut a promo talking about how the Boom business is booming, and they got a new sponsor, and it was Crybaby Calvin. They even have shirts made of Calvin Tankman crying. It was a cartoon version, and they said it was a charity that 1% of the proceeds from that T-shirt will go to Calvin Tankman so he can take care of his family. That was pretty funny. I'm enjoying the Alex Kane thing. They kind of taking it from when it was sort of generic fight guy, and they taking him in a different direction, where he's actually starting to open up and be a little bit more entertaining, and I enjoyed that. He's pretty good. They had a match, Toto versus Proximo. Proximo wins with the C4 from the top rope. I don't know I think this was just a filler match. This match didn't really mean anything. The Von Erichs had a display of strength and power as they tossed around logs or whatever, as they prepare for their tag team title match in Dallas. What nobody told anybody, what I didn't know before I watched this episode, they won't be there. Apparently they both tested positive for COVID, and therefore the match with 5150 and the Von Erichs in Dallas will be canceled. The entire build around this match has been Von Erichs are going to challenge for a world title for the first time in 40 years in Dallas. And now it won't happen. Now it won't happen at all. Yikes. The true gem of this show, however, despite all the fun stuff that they did with Holiday and Hammerstone, that stuff was great. But my favorite part, Jacob Fatu. He's telling his life story about why he got into the business and everything. So Jacob Fatu is just hanging out. He's got this Lokes on, he's got his hair braided, and he's talking about his life. So he introduced himself, Jacob Fatu, the son of Sam Fatu, who was the Tonga Kid. And he said his uncle is Rikishi. And he told the story about how he didn't really want to be in the business. He didn't want to wrestle. And then he got arrested. He did a 211, which is a robbery. He ended up going to jail at 18 years old. And while he was in jail, he saw his cousins, the Usos, on television wrestling the Hearts, Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Tyson Kidd. And he said that made him want to really get into the business because he felt like he had to do something other than getting in trouble. He reminisced about going to his uncle Rikishi's house, and they had the trampoline with the pool and everything. And his wife told him, that if he kept getting arrested, he wasn't going to be able to see the kids. So he had to change and turn his life around. Then he said Rikishi's youngest son, Timiko, called him on the phone and said he had an opportunity for him to get into the business. And he said that he had already known the good and the bad and the ugly of the business because he grew up on it. And he says that he didn't even know that he was growing up in the business when he was growing up in it. And it was so real. It was so down to earth. It was fantastic shit. If you don't watch anything else on this show, go watch this segment. This segment was tremendous. And it was mad niggerish. Okay? Because I was looking at this segment and I was like, wait a minute. Is that Crown Royal next to him? Yeah, it is. Secondly, are those Newports? Crown Royal Newports? I'm like, wait a minute. What homeboy barbecue did this guy come from? I'm like, oh yeah, no wonder we fuck with him. You know? We already know like the Usos, these Samoans, man. These Samoans are mad niggerish. I don't know what it is, but gangbanging, Crown Royal, Newports, getting shot. It's like, whoa. What, they rapping? I'm like, these Samoans are mad niggerish, B. I fuck with it. I fuck with it. They welcome to the party. Come on, man. I don't eat pork, but bring your asses on all over here. Come on, man. I fuck with them. The main event was Mads Kruger versus Basia Sace in a street fight of sorts, you know, because there's 100 street fights on every wrestling show these days. So this was a very good episode of MLW Azteca number 3. I love the Jacob Fatu segment. You know, it was very down to earth, very realistic. You know, I love that they told his story, and it makes sense that they told his story once he turned babyface, because he has the sympathetic story of, you know, not just he grew up in the business, but he was behind the 8 ball. You know, it was the entire family is in the business, so it's like, go ahead, and they already made the lane for you. Just go ahead and jump in. But he was like, nah, I don't want to. And then what he was doing on his own was fucking up. So he started kind of following the right path, and he ended up finding success. That's tremendous. And this is the only kind of story that you can only tell after he's been world champion. Because they introduced him as like a fucking terrorist, you know? So like he's an invader and a terrorist. So now we got to go in a different direction. And a good change of character was basically having to sit down and, you know, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, or whatever. It was a good way to change the character from the almost mute Jacob Fatu that he was before to, you know, seemingly who he really is now. And I do like that change. So they're really doing some really good stuff in MLW. Unfortunately, like the management with their constant interviews and saying weird stuff and doing weird stuff in these silly lawsuits, it really is running people off. Like I have seen people literally say like Mr. Saint Laurent and some of the crazy stuff he's talking about, like he has gigantic pig nuts or something like that. I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, dude, you're doing damage to your brand. Shut the fuck up, please. And just let the wrestling and the show speak for itself. You know, let other people who enjoy the show go out there and put other people on the show. You know, when they see you doing interviews like WrestleZone or whatever the fuck, and you're saying ridiculous stuff, people are going to start writing you off as being a clown and a carny. They already writing off Court Bauer as a clown and a carny already. Like, you got to make them believe that you're a real wrestling promotion. Like, you already have a bad reputation, you know, and they do, you know, that Brian Last acting a fool, talking about how horrible MLW is. It's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, you have a bad reputation, but you still have a good product. Let people find the good product without, you know, being attached to any insane stuff that you might be thinking. You got to be able to keep your worst impulses under control. But this show ruled. The show was very good. You know, let me know what you guys thought. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.